This is Ann Gibbons reporting for the Daily Freeman, and I'm here at the historic 1855 Hudson Opera House.
So this is an image of a production that was on the Opera House stage in 1919. This is a production called Aunt Dinah's Quilting Party. And for a long time, we didn't know if, in fact, this was just a quilting party that happened to use the stage, or if it was a production. But when this photograph ran in a newspaper, the Albany Times-Union did a story and used this photograph, a woman from Schenectady called me and told me when she saw that title, she remembered the song that her grandmother used to sing to her, and she transposed it and sent me the music and also the lyrics. And from Aunt Dinah's Quilting Party is a little number called Seeing Nellie Home, the refrain of which goes something like this. And 'twas from Aunt Dinah's quilting party, I was seeing Nellie home, I was seeing Nellie home, I was seeing Nellie home. And 'twas from Aunt Dinah's quilting party, I was seeing Nellie home.
That was the voice of Gary Shero, who is the executive director of the Hudson Opera House. And we are in the West Room, which is the first room that was opened in this grand old building. And we're going to speak a little bit more.
So in 1855, when the building first opened, the planners had the very smart idea that they should find a way of earning some revenue to help pay for the building. And they leased out this storefront space to first, we think, a pharmacy, and then, starting in 1869, to the First National Bank of Hudson. And they were a tenant here in the building until about 1910. And by that time, the city administration had grown that there was need for more office space, and this became city offices. But the vault behind me
yes, that's what I was going to ask you
dates
about.
back to about 1869, and some of the finishes in this space relate to a restoration that the bank did around 1900. The tin ceiling, which is the only one that exists in the building, the marble wainscoting, which was in the public area, and the wood wainscoting that was there for the tellers, much less fancy.
This is a beautiful old vault, and I remember back in the day when it used to be open.
Well, back in the first period of the recent first period of the project for us, post 1998 when we opened this room, there was very little storage space available. We just had this one space. So the vault became very valuable storage. We used to keep artist supplies in there. And I once entertained a room full of 100 kids that were here for a storyteller who had the time written down wrong in her appointment book and was late. And there were 100 kids sitting here waiting for her to arrive. And I once entertained them by very slowly going over to the vault and very slowly opening it. I literally had to get inside because now that 100 kids showed up, I realized we needed the platforms that were inside, but I also realized I could buy myself a little time if I did it very purposefully. And in fact, many of the kids thought that it was a woman who was appearing as a leprechaun because it was right around St. Patrick's Day. Many people thought the leprechaun was going to emerge out of the safe. She didn't, but I got them to calm down, and I bought maybe 10 more minutes. And then finally she arrived and told her stories, much to their delight.
This is a view of the long hallway leading up to the second floor performance space, which the Opera House now uses as a gallery. This view of the stairs leading up to the second floor performance space are a marked departure from the beautifully restored main floor and the gallery space. This is a view of the landing as theater goers came up the stairs to enter the Opera House. This is a view of the original seats of the Opera House that were in the building in 1855. This is a long view of New York State's oldest surviving theater, the second floor performance space of the Hudson Opera House. Remnants of its former beauty can be seen, and the Opera House is now looking at ways to restore it. And Gary, on stage with you are 4 notable people who performed or spoke at the Opera House, and who are you standing next to?
Teddy Roosevelt came here in 1910 and refused to go on stage until he was given a second bowl of soup. He made his handlers run across the street and get another bowl of vegetable soup while thousands were waiting in the auditorium. And as he was leaving, he turned to them, getting into the car, and said, "I mean it, men. From now on, I need man-sized victuals or I'll strike." This is Ralph Waldo Emerson. He was actually supposed to appear the opening week of the building in January of 1855. He got snowed out. and didn't make it back here until 1862, and then came to the Opera House again in the 1880s. This is Marietta Gazzaniga, who was an Italian soprano that was touring the States. She came here in the 1860s, and Verdi wrote several roles specifically for her, including the opera Louisa Miller.
And Gary, who is this formidable woman?
Susan B. Anthony came to the Opera House twice. First to lobby for the abolishment of slavery and for African Americans to have the right to vote, which many people thought was also going to include the right for women to vote, and it did not, and she came back to lobby for women's suffrage in the 1890s.
This is Ann Gibbons with the Daily Freedom.